everybody, as an iPad Pro first user, I think I finally did it. I created the perfect iPad Pro desk setup. Let's talk about it. So there were three main things with this iPad Pro desk setup that I really wanted to emphasize. So the first one had to be that, of course, my workspace had to be aesthetically pleasing. It had to be welcoming, I wanted it to be minimal, everything had to serve a purpose, maybe have multiple functions, and I didn't want to have clutter for no reason. Sure, I had a couple things here and there just for pleasing to look at, kind of styles and things like that, but overall everything has a purpose and a reason why it's on the desk. The second thing I needed to be is that I needed a way to mimic the iPad Pro display. The M4 iPad Pro display is the best display in my opinion on the market. That tandem OLED is beautiful, it's got a reference mode, so I needed a display that can kind of mimic that or second that display without having a big detriment to the overall quality. So I found myself a beautiful 5K display by BenQ, which we'll touch on in a little bit. And then thirdly, I needed it to be versatile. So sometimes I do go back and forth between Mac OS and iPad OS. Again, I'm 90% iPad OS and most of my actual work is done on the iPad, but every now and then sometimes it is easier to use Mac OS for certain situations, and that's why I like to be able to switch between both OSs depending on what situation I'm in. So those are the three pillars for this desk setup. But now before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor Paperlike, who's always been supporting the channel. Let's get into that.
The Paperlike screen protector was actually the very first accessory I ever bought for my original 2018 iPad Pro. It absolutely changed the way I use my iPad, giving me that real paper feel right on my screen, and it's been almost 7 years and I still make sure that I have one for all of my iPads. I recently got the new iPad mini 7 and I knew I needed to throw a Paperlike screen protector on there because it just adds a whole new dimension with how I engage with the iPad mini. Paperlike's nanodot tech gives you the natural resistance of paper, letting you take neater notes, draw with precision, and even makes the sound of pencil on paper. Combine that with the new haptics of the Pencil Pro, and you have a match made in heaven. It is made for creators and doers. It's perfect for artists, designers, students, or anyone who wants the real paper experience in their digital workflow. And with its microbead tech, Paperlike keeps your screen clear and near glare free, making it as beautiful to look at as it is to write on. Not only do they give you 2 Paperlikes on there just in case you mess up, but they also are so confident in their product that they offer a 100-day satisfaction guarantee. So if you're ready to fall in love with writing on your iPad, give Paperlike a try with the link below.
And now, back to the iPad Pro desk setup. So let's start off with the aesthetics of the desk setup itself. Of course, I'm going to be using a standing desk or a rising desk or a smart desk. I've been using this one for years. This is going to be the Flexispot Odin. The one thing that I'm going to call out here is that, in a positive note, if you are looking to get a standing desk and you do have a little bit more to spend, I highly recommend going with a 4-legged standing desk because it is just much more sturdy, especially when you have it at that standing height, and if you're somebody who's even taller, because once you start getting to that standing height and you only have the 2 legs, for the most part it's going to be fine, but it does wobble a lot more compared to somebody who has a 4-legged desk setup. So that's something I do want to recommend. I will leave this one linked down below as well as everything that I mentioned. But if you're just looking for any garden variety standing desk and you can choose between a 2-legged and a 4-legged, go with the 4-legged desk. But now you might be able to see that there's a running theme in terms of color and aesthetic on the entire desk setup. Everything is light, everything is airy, everything kind of has a white undertone, even down to the actual chair itself. But the way that I have everything set up right now is that my iPad Pro is kind of my main hub for everything. I'm not really using an external mouse that much, I'm not really using an external keyboard. Everything is done through the Magic Keyboard with the iPad Pro right in front of me, and then everything is connected via the iPad Pro to the external display. So I'm going to run down some of those center hub accessories that I've been using. So I've been using this company called Ugmonk for a little while now, and I absolutely love their desk accessories, albeit they are a little bit expensive, but it is for good reason because it's made in the US, it's super high quality material, it has kind of this modularity kind of form factor to it because it uses magnets to move things around, to keep things in place, so everything that they make is going to be extremely high quality, and I have a few of their accessories. So I have their monitor riser, which sits on top of any desk. It's perfect for the setup that I have to be able to elevate a few things off the actual desk itself, give me a little bit more room or surface area to put some more things down, and it has this nice little microfiber cubby, which I put little miscellaneous things that really are mostly around my camera equipment for my iPhone for when I make these videos. So I have little mini tripods that I use for continuity camera that are put in there. I have my external lens in there, but sometimes I do put my iPad Pro in there in clamshell mode, even though there is a workaround for clamshell mode because it doesn't technically work, which I'll share in a little bit. but it is something that I do recommend getting. This monitorizer, extremely high quality, and I absolutely love it. And of course, it's made out of metal, so it is relatively heavy, and you do feel that from a quality standpoint, but it's made out of metal for a reason because of all the modular accessories that it has from a magnet standpoint. So I have a couple other auxiliary accessories from Ugmonk that can attach magnetically, like their 1x1 holder. I have their actual pencil holder, which is there as well. I have a secondary pencil holder, which has kind of like this squiggle format. But overall, the idea here is to keep everything light and airy, to have a place to put little tchotchkes or little things that I use on a daily basis, like pens and Apple pencils, and maybe microfiber cloths and things of that nature, and now everything is reachable and can be moved around whenever I see fit. So now the actual monitor that I'm using, which is going to kind of go into that versatility mode of me being able to switch between Mac OS and iPad OS, is going to be the brand new 5K display by BenQ, and this is going to be their PD3730S. Again, I'll leave it linked down below, but this is going to be their latest and greatest. Now, I was a little bit hesitant going from a 32-inch 4K down to a 27-inch 5K, because I thought to myself that having a smaller display is actually going to be a worse off experience, and I was completely wrong. And now this 5K display is purpose-built for us Apple users in mind. It's made primarily for MacBooks and Mac OS computers, whether it is an iMac, a Mac Mini, but you can also, of course, use it with your iPad with a single cable solution. This is a Thunderbolt 4 monitor as well, so it's going to give you the highest speeds, even has a little hub on the back with some extra USB-A as well as USB-C ports that you can actually use for data transfer and things of that nature. So it kind of checks off a bunch of different boxes, but the one thing that I was most impressed with was the actual picture quality and the sharpness of it all. This is my first ever experience with a 5K monitor. I've been using 4K monitors for years, and I didn't think that I would see a big difference overall, but it is night and day, a huge difference. And what's interesting here is that, again, going back to the idea of having a 4K versus a 5K monitor, in your mind you go from 4 to 5 and it's not that big of a difference from a number standpoint, but in reality you're actually increasing your pixel count by over 77%, going from 4K to 5K, and that does make complete sense because when you start to square the actual pixel density and things like that, of course it's going to make sense. So going from 4K to 5K is something that I can now never go back down to 4K in my opinion. But this 5K monitor is going to be perfect for any Apple user, for any Mac user, any iPad user, and of course any Windows user. But this is going to be perfect for me because it's a single cable solution, it uses Thunderbolt, it supports up to 90 watts of PD power pass-through, which for an iPad Pro is more than enough because it maxes out at around 40 watts of power, so my iPad is always going to be charged when I do have it plugged in. You are dealing with a 512 by 2880, so the perfect 5K display. 400 nits of brightness. It does offer support for HDR10. You have viewing angles of almost 180 degrees. You have the 2001 native contrast ratio. It is a 60 Hz display, so not really for somebody that's gaming, but it can handle the off game here and there. And for me, the cherry on top is that it has a nano matte texture display, so it is very anti-glare. But when it comes to that versatility standpoint, this also is a KVM switch enabled supported monitor, which means that you can have two different computers plugged into it, and with a switch of a button, go between Mac OS and iPad OS. As you can see here, I have my Mac Mini and my iPad always plugged in here, so I can quickly switch between the two whenever I do actually need my Mac Mini, or of course, I can just use something like Universal Control or Sidecar if that's something that I want to get into. But if you're looking for a 5K monitor, this new one by BenQ is one that I do highly recommend, so check it out below. So now some other auxiliary accessories that I've been using on a day-to-day basis. So that light bar on top of the monitor itself is actually a separate addition. This is not something that comes in the box, but this is their Halo light bar. I've actually never thought that I would want a light bar like this, but it works extremely well in this lighting. Albeit there are some cheaper ones on Amazon, so I'll link a couple down below. But this one by BenQ is very high quality and works extremely well with a single USB-C cable connected to the rear of the monitor. And it also comes with this beautiful little touch tone kind of puck that you can actually change the color temperature, change the lighting, change how bright it is. And so it has all these different settings, which I absolutely love. And now on top of the monitorizer itself, I actually have a Bluetooth speaker, which is going to be by Soundblade. And while albeit the actual monitor itself does have some speakers, they are relatively tinny and they're not something that I want to be listening to music with. So this one gives you the best of both worlds, where it stays flat and sleek, and it's actually made for the iMac because it's made for the iMac to actually sit on top of it and it's supposed to double as a monitorizer. But I use it and it fits perfectly on top of my actual monitorizer, and you can connect to it via Bluetooth, via USB-C, or via auxiliary cable. I have it connected to my actual monitor via USB-C, so now I'm able to default to those speakers whenever I want to, and this thing actually packs a huge punch with awesome bass, super high highs, and some nice lows, and it doesn't distort at those high volumes, and it's extremely loud for what it is. And with that running theme of multifunctionality, the desk mat that I have is going to be probably the coolest desk mat that I've ever used because it has multiple functions. So this is by a company called Orbitkey. This has been around for years now at this point, but the first thing you notice is it has this kind of rail on the top of it with some magnetic little cable organizers that you can put throughout that rail. So that rail is actually metal as well. You put those magnetic organizers on there and then you're able to just slide in whatever cables you want through there, which is nice to see. I actually use this as a great place to put my Apple Pencil because not only does it have those divots in there so the Apple Pencil can't get out, but it's also magnetic. So the Apple Pencil just magnetizes on there and it definitely doesn't move. And then of course you actually have the mat itself, which is made out of vegan leather, very premium, but it has a second layer underneath made of felt, and in between those you can actually lift it up and hide little pieces of paper or brochures, or those things that are just a little bit flat and then you want out of sight, but you still want to have some access to it. So I have some shipping labels in there, some random stickers that I like to use, so that's always in there in between them, and I like that it's going to have a felt bottom so it doesn't scratch up or damage the actual surface of the desk itself. And a few more auxiliary things that I use, so I have Nomad's 3-in-1 Base Max or Base 1 Max. Again, it's just a 3-in-1 charger. It is Qi 2 enabled. It is very high quality. It fits that kind of very light and airy aesthetic that I've been going for. And again, it serves a purpose. They do have their new model which supports standby mode. This one in particular doesn't because of the placement of the Apple Watch charger, but for me it's totally fine. But like I said, they do have an identical one where they move the Apple Watch charger down, so it does give support for standby mode for those people that do like standby mode, which I think is a great little add-on and something that they got from customer feedback. And then behind that, I have my Sonos Ace headphones, which I use from time to time whenever I am editing because the latency is so low and the quality of those headphones are so good. Do recommend getting those over-ear headphones if you are in the market for a pair of over-ear headphones, and they are sitting on Ugmonk's headphone stand, which is something that fits perfectly within my aesthetic and my theme. And then lastly, I like to have my SSD around, so I use either my Lexar SL500 or my new Samsung T9, depending on what project that I'm working on, to be able to edit these videos off directly my iPad, which is something that I like to be able to do. I like to keep everything off of my iPad itself and all these larger files on an external SSD, so I'm not kind of clouding up the iPad itself. And then lastly, of course, to kind of just highlight the versatility of it all, this desk setup is perfect because, of course, it's iPad Pro focused. There is a Mac Mini on this desk setup that I use from time to time. I have my KVM switch on the monitor itself to switch between the OSs, but then the iPad Pro itself is the most versatile computer on the market. I can grab the Magic Keyboard, take off that Thunderbolt cable, and then I'm on the go with everything I need. I can take the iPad itself off the Magic Keyboard and use it in tablet mode, handwrite with actual Apple Pencil support. I have all the different things that I can use with that front. I can put a slim folio case on here and still get most of the stage manager support with external keyboard and external mouse. So again, the iPad Pro for me, albeit it's probably the jack of all trades and the master of none, but for me it does everything that I needed to, and it's the most fun computer to use and the most excited I get when I do sit down at my desk and need to get some work done. But that is going to be my iPad Pro first desk setup. I've been kind of massaging this desk setup for years now, and I'm always adding, always removing, and always kind of manipulating the different things that I have on here. So definitely leave your recommendation down below of maybe a desk setup item or accessory that I should check out, something that would fit perfectly in this desk setup, because I'm always looking for new things to add on that'll add some additional value and look great. But that'll do it for this video, everybody. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you want to watch more videos like this one, definitely check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everybody. Big shout out to Paperlike for continuing to support the channel because we got some good videos coming out soon. Peace.